Hello, everybody, and welcome into After the Game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington, Indiana, almost with the win tonight as they lose 75-71 in overtime to number 12 Illinois. Todd, you were almost going to have a very exciting night, but it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, this is a game that, unfortunately, all day long, I don't think too many Indiana fans expected to win. And then as the game progressed, I think they did kind of expect to win. And I liked what the team did tonight. I thought for the most part, there was a lot of really good things. I think if you watch our show all the time, I know you would hear me after the Iowa game. I said I was fully prepared to talk about all the positives you can take away from still a game that you lose. And honestly, that's the case tonight. They played different. They played better. They played with more energy. They played with a better offensive scheme. They shot the ball earlier in the shot clock. I thought there was a lot of positives that came out of it. Them giving Christian Lander a chance finally to stay on the court and play.
You've been begging for that, and
yep.
I tweeted it out. He gets the minutes, and he's performed twice. Both times he's been given the opportunities. He stood up, and as a matter of fact, I thought he gave the offense a kickstart. It just seemed like when he was in there, it just moved.
The ball moves.
Yes.
There's less dribbling. They shoot earlier in the shot clock. And we've got a small sample size so far of him being on the court. But I think you said it there. I mean, it's happened twice and two different times. Both times I think that we've seen the offense look a little bit better and at least have a jump start to them. And it looked better out on the floor. And I think a lot of people would say, okay, he gave up 2 threes at the end and then fouled on a 3. You know what? The older guys that came in there did the exact same thing. The only difference is the shot didn't go down when Frazier took it late in the game. And it's exact same scenario. It's unfortunate for him or for Lander that, they made the shots when he was guarding him, but defense is not the big issue here. I mean,
he played 19 minutes, and Rob Finney fouled out in 13 minutes. So, to kind of make your point,
the defensive guru, which I'm not ripping Rob Finney. No. All I want out of that position is some production, and I think overall you're going to get a lot more production down the road with a guy like Lander.
As everybody joins us in, we'll welcome in, coming to you live from Yogi's after the game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you from Yogi's. Let's thank the Finney Hospitality Group, Chris Martin, Kelly, Lindsay, everybody here. Always a great time. This place is packed tonight. The students are back, man, because it's almost midnight, and it is packed. They were coming in before the game, and they've been here the whole time. So Yogi's is the place to be now for the games, getting back to that. Christian Lander, I guess this was his coming out party. We've been talking about him wanting to get there, and I don't know if it was his coming out party, but it sure was close if it wasn't.
Yeah, you know what? Like here's a really good example. Like they had a great parallel on the other bench tonight. And the Curbelo kid is a freshman. He makes a lot of mistakes, but he also makes a lot of plays for him. And he's regarded like they talk about him like he's a Jason Kidd / LaMelo Ball or Lonzo Ball type player where he sees the floor and gets the ball going where it needs to go, runs the offense differently. He makes passes that, most guys just don't see. And he made some terrible mistakes in the second half of this game, yet he stayed on the floor. And he didn't just stay on the floor because Desanmu fouled out. He was on the floor anyway. And they give him a chance. They give him the opportunity to be out on the court and make those freshman mistakes. And he's late in his season. He's played a whole lot more minutes than Christian Lander, and he's still making those mistakes. But they give him that opportunity. So you see the parallel on the other bench tonight. And I hope that Indiana learns something from that and continues on with Christian Lander.
I threw that question up there real quick. Trey Galloway, he played 25 minutes. He only took 3 shots.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not just the 3 shots. Like, He's kind of turned into the ball stopper. Like when the ball gets to him, nothing positive happens after. He's not driving to the rim, making good passes. He's just kind of facilitating, one pass to the next, and it going from one point A to point B. He's point B, and then it's going to point C. He's not really doing anything with it. And so, I think his limited production is, that's something that's got to be addressed. Like, I do think he's capable of doing it. I don't know why he's not being more aggressive offensively, but he is really, really hurting this offense by being so stagnant with the ball.
It's hard. Well, we have to talk about Rob Fennessy. He did not have a very good night,
Nope.
and that was to Christian Lander's benefit. He stepped in, but he's a veteran, and I sent out a tweet earlier talking about the freshmen bringing the energy. When those 4 freshmen were on the floor, it was fun. It was actually fun to watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it was great basketball, but it was fun to watch because they were working their ass off. They were trying, moving the ball, and it was enjoyable.
Didn't you feel like we were kind of seeing their development take place right in front of us? Like, it
Boom.
was, you were almost kind of watching them get better as they were out on the court. And I tweeted it out at halftime. I said, start the freshmen in the second half, reward them for what they did in that first half, even if they don't last very long on there, even if Illinois starts to go on a run, reward them for what they did out there. But like Al Durham, Rob Fennessy, Armand Franklin, they all had 2 fouls. That's the only reason all those guys were on the floor at the same time. And I'm with you, Jim. I enjoyed watching those guys on the court together. I enjoyed the way the ball got up and down the court. And we haven't talked about him yet. I'm not just going to totally switch subjects, but we haven't talked about him yet. But I know the stat line probably doesn't show this way, but the most important player for Indiana all night long was Race Thompson. It wasn't Trace Jackson Davis.
He was working hard down below in the paint. I mean, he was doing everything. He was in a fist fight all night, basically.
Yep. And he was doing everything. And Trace Jackson Davis had a very good, solid night. But when Indiana went to him late in the game, when they needed a basket, when it was tied late in the game, and they ran the play that they would run no matter what the opponent was that were playing. And that, to me, is a mistake, because Trace Jackson Davis does not have an advantage over Kofi Cockburn. I think in 2 years playing time, in watching those two play against each other, it's pretty proven Trace Jackson Davis has an advantage over almost everybody else he plays against, but not Kofi Cockburn. The size and weight difference it stymies him just a little bit. And so I don't understand why that was our play at the end of regulation. It didn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, because it took almost a half a game, to me it seemed, for Trace Jackson Davis to feel comfortable enough to get in there and battle. Race was in there from the start, but he didn't really seem like he wanted to mix it up a lot in the beginning in there.
Well, I mean, nobody wants to mix it up with
not with him.
Cockburn. I mean, he's just that big. And
he's a gigantic.
He is, and it's just one of those things. Like, I'm not blaming Trace. I didn't think he went out of his way forcing it, being ridiculous, taking crazy shots, trying to get his numbers. I never felt that way. But I also think that when they called that timeout at the end of the game and they were setting up a play to run, I would not have set that play up for Trace Jackson Davis. He did not have the advantage. So I didn't understand. I didn't understand some of the things that went down with that. But, overall, I thought the game was coached well. I thought the players played pretty well. I think Illinois is one of the top 10 teams in the country, and you took them to overtime. And there's some positives that can come out of that.
Question, Kevin, why don't we set up our shooters? Why, especially toward the end there?
I mean,
I know they don't have a lot of confidence in them. I know they don't have a lot of confidence in them.
He used shooters plural there, and I would question who our shooters are, but I get where they're coming from with that, and I understand it. I feel the same way. That's the easiest thing in offense to do, I think, is just kind of create a mismatch and get two people to guard you. You get a little hesitation and you kick it to a shooter, and he should be open enough to get a shot off. And we don't do a whole lot of that. I agree with you.
No, and earlier when the four freshmen were on the floor and they all seemed, man, they were confident when they're out there. Are they more confident when they're out there together because they're out there together?
Comfortable. I think comfortable is probably
that's what
the
I
better
meant.
word.
Comfortable.
Yep.
They looked super comfortable.
I think they spent a lot of time in the early season probably playing together, all on that, with Galloway maybe being the exception to that. But I think the rest of them all kind of playing together on the practice squad. Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably a little bit more comfortable. There's no question about you develop a camaraderie as, back when I played, it was the red team versus the white team. The white team was always the opponent. They were always the other guys. The red team was the starters. And you develop a little, chip on your shoulder where you get some camaraderie and playing hard. And, man, I don't think you would find very many Indiana teams that wouldn't tell you there's an awful lot of days when the white team in Indiana beats the red team in Indiana in practice. And, that's good. That's good for the team in general, and everybody benefits from that. And I think those freshmen have been on that white practice team quite a bit, and they showed it tonight.
I can crack on the officiating tonight because I'm not crack on it one way. They sucked. I mean, they were absolutely horrific, and both ways. I mean, there was 53 personal fouls.
They were
53.
Just entirely too involved in this basketball game.
It was unbelievable.
It was. It got to the point of being ridiculous. Here's where I'll tell you how ridiculous it was. The technical foul early
Which
in
one?
the game.
The early on?
Yeah, like that's just not a thing.
It was B. I tweeted out that was BS, and then later Trace Jackson throws down a monster dunk, and he gives the big right to their bench, and they're all screaming for the technical.
Right?
They didn't get it.
Yeah,
they didn't get it.
Well, and they shouldn't have. They shouldn't compound the error.
That's part of the game.
That's right. They shouldn't compound the error with a second error and calling a second technical. But that first one was a joke, and that's just a part of the game. That's just a part of what should happen.
Ryan thinks the offense relies too much on one-on-one moves, way too much standing. Normally, I do see a lot of standing. I don't know that I saw as much of that tonight, but I early on, they were trying to run a weave, and it just seemed like their spacing was way too tight. The passes weren't crisp, but then they kind of got away from that. So, again, they don't seem to do the same thing very often.
Well, here's been my complaint, and you know this all year long, is when we get late in the shot clock, which is what Ryan's talking about there, we really rely on one-on-one. We rely on a guy to create his own shot, and we just really don't have that many guys. I mean, I do think Armand Franklin has turned into a guy who is really capable of getting his own shot. Other than that, he's the only one. I really feel
and he's always looking for it, too.
I feel like he's the only one really capable of it right now on a consistent basis. And that being the case, you're not going to have a very successful offense if you've got one guy that is capable of being one-on-one and you rely on it a lot. Now, what I didn't like was when we get down to the end of the basketball game, then we slow it down. Then we're holding the ball out there, and it's what I was thinking is when it got down to the end of the game and we're holding it, waiting for the shot clock to kind of run down a little bit. I do not like our chances. When it comes
I didn't. Well, especially because they ran it down to like under 10, and I'm like, dude, you got to go. And so I did not understand that at all. But question is why didn't he start Lander in the second half?
Yeah.
If he was catching fire, I can tell you that. And I'll let Todd. Archie does not change what he does. He does the same thing over and over, and I don't care what the reason is. He's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's. I would love to say that I think that there will be a change to that, but we have beat our head against the wall for this for several years, and you're right. It doesn't change. I think Indiana fans were kind of, I don't know if spoiled's the right word, but become accustomed to Coach Knight. If a guy played really well in the first half, that guy started the second half, and that happened a lot at Indiana under Coach Knight, and I think we just kind of became accustomed to that. It doesn't happen under Archie Miller very often, and if it was going to happen tonight, would have been a great opportunity to come out and get that going. You had a 7-point lead. If things started going haywire, I know you want to protect that lead at that point. I get it, but you also want to try to build on it, and I thought their offense ran better with Christian Lander out there.
Welcome everybody in after the game with Todd Leary. Of course, we're coming to you from Yogi's. At least I am. It's really late, so we had to send Todd away. We come in. Make sure you stop by, man. The students are back. This place was packed tonight. It's still crowded, as you can hear. Whether it's the Tap or Smokeworks, Social Cantina, hit them all up. Finney Hospitality Group, Andy Moore Honda. We appreciate them as well, and French Lick Resort. Man, Indiana, it does not get easier. We'll talk about Iowa coming up, but there were positives coming out of this game. You took, like you mentioned, one of the top teams to overtime, and now you play a team that you just beat who is going to be looking basically to kick your ass.
For revenge, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a This is a revenge game, no question about it, for Iowa. I mean, they're going to want to avenge one of the losses that they have on their resume that they feel like is a bad loss. And at the end of the season, if Indiana doesn't end up turning it around and making the NCAA tournament, it's going to be looked at as a bad loss on their home court. So they're going to want to try to take care of that. And I do think, honestly, it's kind of human nature. I do think the committee will look at this game later on when it comes to seeding for Iowa. And they'll look at this game and say, okay, well, they got beat on their home court and then they went to Assembly Hall and they really took care of business and smacked Indiana, or went and got beat again. And they show some vulnerability when it comes to that. And so, I think that this is a big game for Iowa. I think they're going to come in with some motivation. Obviously, Indiana's got all the motivation in the world. Like you need to win every game possible right now because you're staring at a losing record for the season, and you know what that ends up sending you to.
How big would it have been for them to pull this game out? I mean, that would have been gigantic coupled with the Iowa win.
Yeah, it needed to be. They needed to win that game. Like it would have been huge. I mean, it needed to be huge. They needed to compile not just that win, but you take that one. I mean, I don't think Indiana has won, definitely not in the Big Ten. They haven't won more than two games in a row so far this season. And this would have been two really good ones to have at home.
I'll say.
With an opportunity then, I think, to play Northwestern on the tail end of that and get a 3-game winning streak. There's not going to be very many 3 or 4-game winning streaks for any team in the Big Ten this year outside of Michigan and, maybe Iowa or Illinois. But it's just it's a difficult year. I know I'm tired of saying it. I know people are tired of hearing it. We want the league to be good. We don't want a bunch of cakewalks, okay? We want the league to be good. We just want to be competitive in it. And we were competitive tonight. That's something that, I can hang my hat on. I can live with this one. I truly can live with this one. I can't live with the Rutgers loss.
They were definitely that. I threw up this. Jerome Hunter obviously did not play tonight. I don't think an announcement was made. I got there late, so I didn't know if an announcement was made. I knew he wasn't playing. Was there an official announcement made?
Well, only on TV the announcement was it was a coach's decision, and he wasn't dressed. So, I think in that regard, generally, let's just go. I know nothing about it, but let's just say in general, it's generally some type of behavioral issue.
There's the elephant in the room. There's rumors out there. I'm not gonna spread them. Y'all go find them because they're there. You don't need me to find it for you. But we'll find out if he's out for 3 games or not. That'll kind of do some investigation for us. So.
Yeah, and it is. And you know what? Here's the issue. I'm regardless of what it's for, it's bad timing for Indiana. You know what? They need
bad timing for him too.
It is totally for him. But when you look at the team, when you look at the team as a whole, like they need every ounce of firepower that they can get, and especially with his size, I think he's a bad mismatch for Illinois. Like he would have a guy guarding him that's several inches smaller than him, and this is a game I think he could have helped out quite a bit. And you do the math.
Let's see. I'm trying to find something else to throw up there that's not too negative because there's a whole bunch of negative up there tonight. And me, I'm trying to be Mr. Positive tonight.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Look, I want to make sure that this is understood. I'm not trying to pile on. Look, I'm disappointed. I don't like losing. I'll give Dan Dockich credit for the quote because he's the first person I heard say it, but I'm sure somebody probably said it before him. But you show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. And I don't want to get better at dealing with losses. Like I'm not that kind of person, and I don't think I'm ever going to be. And so I'm not happy with this. I'm trying to spin it in my own brain in as positive a way as there can be. But Jim, I'm also not a complete moron. I didn't expect to win this game. I didn't expect this game to be close. I didn't either. I didn't expect them to get it to overtime. So I'm somewhat happily surprised with the outcome of the game, and that's with a loss. And that sucks to say, but that's where we are with this program right now.
Yeah, it's Roger says it's very difficult to watch, and a lot of people are feeling that way. And tonight, it wouldn't have been difficult to watch if they had pulled it out. And this game wasn't difficult.
This game was
because
easy.
They tried. They worked.
Rutgers,
that
painful
sucked.
to watch. That was very difficult. Northwestern,
Purdue.
Very difficult. Purdue's probably the worst game that's been to watch all year long.
And another thing I started to think of, like Illinois, they had the energy right from the start. Where we sit is right by their bench, and man, they were in it from the word go. Every time the play was on their end, they were at it. You could feel their energy, and I just wonder if more teams are bringing more energy into Assembly Hall, it seems like, than Indiana has, and I don't understand that.
You do. It's one of those scenarios when
you have to, as a road team, you have to.
Well, and when you've got an opportunity to come into Assembly Hall, let's just. I mean, I'm not even trying to say, oh, Indiana's a blue blood, whatever. However you want to look at it, I'll say this: when these kids were growing up, they saw Assembly Hall on CBS, on ESPN, the Tuesday night Big Monday or Super Tuesday or whatever ESPN game. Almost every week it includes Indiana back a long time ago. And so they've heard about it. They've watched it. They've seen it. Their parents have seen it. They've lived it. And so going into Assembly Hall and having an opportunity to go in there and you know what our fans are like. I'm proud to say our fans are extremely passionate. When those guys come to Assembly Hall, they're used to getting berated over there on the end of that bench. We've all been a part of it. We've all seen it. And now they're getting to come in there and create their own energy. Like they're taking full advantage of this.
Here's one just for you, man. This is right up your alley. 1 3-point shot in the second half.
Yeah, I didn't want to just keep beating the horse here, but I did notice that. And that's just something that you can say, you know what? They took it to overtime. So it's ridiculous for me to say this, but you generally don't have a chance to win a game when in today's 2021 basketball, you don't have a chance to win a game when you're only attempting 1 3-point shot in a half of basketball. And
they only attempted 8 for the game versus 19 for Illinois.
Yep. My theory on that. I don't think you can win consistently. And I said it when we started the year before our very first Big Ten game. We would not win more than 2 Big Ten games that we don't make more than 4 3-pointers. I don't care what the number is we shoot. If we don't make more than 4, we'll sneak a couple out. And we did. We won 1 already this year. I think we made 4. But we won't win very many of those games. And we're sitting there looking at one.
I know we talked about Trey Galloway not looking for a shot enough. He had at least toward the end an open 3, or he could have put a 3 up, but he just didn't have the confidence.
He could have put a 16-foot jump shot up with no defender on him, and instead he ball faked, no one being there, and got called for a travel.
And then he got a call for a bad charge later too.
That's a guy who's tentative and not confident in his offensive ability. And let me tell you this, Jim. So I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to preface it by saying I am a Trey Galloway fan. I have been since the first grade. He has a terrific family, and he's a great kid, and I've watched him play since he's in the first grade. But I'm going to tell you, when you've got a kid that is lacking confidence the way he is right now, how can you have him on the court in the last 5 minutes of a basketball game when you need points? That I don't understand.
I did enjoy Christian Lander getting shots up. Not only that, again, he hunted the rim once. He made a ton of great passes. He was looking to facilitate scoring, not just to pass the ball. He was looking to put the ball in a scoring position quite a few times in the middle, and I really like that.
Yeah, and I know. Yes, you're exactly right. We're gonna say the positives that he did, but even if it is just because that position is not producing anything. Like, I'm not going to say this to pick on him, but I'm going to say Rob Finney finishes the game not only with no points, but no assists, no rebounds.
0 of 2 shots.
He's zeros across the board. He's zeros across the board until you get to fouls. Then he had 5.
It was like he was trying to get out of the game as quickly as possible.
He did have a steal, so I don't want to act like he literally did nothing else. But he has zeros completely across the board. In how many minutes?
13.
13 minutes?
13 minutes.
Zeros across the board. You cannot win at this level with
No.
the starting point guard with that line. You can't.
I know that, well, I don't know what this offense is, so it's kind of hard to ask this question, but they don't screen, they don't set up shots. You know, you want to get shots. It's not like they don't set them up to have shots. It's like if they happen to happen, great. But there's nothing that seems to be leading towards getting an open perimeter shot.
Yeah, I mean, what we run are called sets. Like, they're not screens. We're, as Indiana fans, Mike, it's a good question, and it's good observation. Indiana fans are very smart. So it's hard to trick them, and it's hard to create some illusion that's not really there. We run sets, and so you get guys out there. Guys are running off of some screens versus someone coming to set me a screen. And if you don't know the difference in that, there's a gigantic difference. And so when there's a guy, I'll give you an example. Cree Smith is – Coach Knight used to talk about Cree Smith was the most valuable player – on their team. And Steve Alford should have carried him around in his hip with him everywhere he went, because if he could have taken him to the NBA with him, he would have probably played for 20 years in the NBA, because Cree Smith's sole job was to get Steve Alford open. And that was what he knew he needed to do out on the court. And we don't have that. I don't even know that we really want to have that particular person out on the court.
Well, we don't have that shooter right now.
Well, and we don't. But, you know, I'd like to have guys whose mental thought process is to get other people open, because it's amazing. I think everyone who's played basketball would understand this. You get open a lot more as a screener than you might think you do. Like, you're not taken out of the play just because you're the screener. And you know, I could go off on a tangent on this for hours and hours, but Mike, he makes a great point with that we don't set screens. We run sets that include a stationary screen and somebody runs off of it. And there's a big difference, but there's a lot of teams that run that same. That's kind of a pro set offense, and unfortunately, we don't have pro set players running a pro set offense.
I think Indiana went from the last 6 minutes of the game and deep 4 minutes into overtime without a field goal.
I know we had about a 6 to 8 minute stretch at one point where we only made free throws. We didn't make any baskets. That was prior to overtime. And then, you know, Brent makes up the point there. Were we afraid to shoot in overtime? And, I mean, afraid, I don't know. I think we were being cautious, and we were, we were – I don't know if it was afraid to shoot. We were trying not to make mistakes. We were trying not to turn the ball over. And it's hard to play that way. It really, really is. Like, it's difficult to play when you're just trying not to make mistakes.
It seems like that has been the case a lot of times, not just then, but there's just apprehension for this team offensively, apprehensive. The guys to shoot a perimeter shot. It just seems like they don't always have the confidence to do what needs to be done. I don't know why, or I don't know if that's the truth, but it just appears that way too often.
Well, and you know, like look at the overtime possession that took place when Illinois went ahead by 2. Armand Franklin, they spread the court out, and Armand drove straight down the lane and got, you know, a fairly easy layup. I mean, it was difficult, but he made it. It was a fairly easy layup, and that was an aggressive offensive play. That's by far the most aggressive offensive play that Indiana made in overtime, and quite frankly, for the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game. And that's the part of it I don't understand. There should be more of that more often.
You talked about Jerome earlier, that what he could have done tonight. How much not having him made a difference in this game tonight? I mean, because we were shocked the way it ended up. So
we can all speculate. I mean, we could sit here and say his line was going to be 12 points and 7 rebounds and 5 assists, and we don't know that. But I think that there were some matchup issues that he would have created that I would have liked to have seen Indiana have the opportunity to explore. And whatever the reasoning is that he wasn't dressed, I don't blame Archie Miller for that. I do not know what the reasons are, but I'm going to tell you, if they're disciplinary reasons, I have no problem with the decision for him not to play. Quite frankly, I commend the coaching staff for if that's the case. Very unfortunate for the kid. Hey, look, Jim, let's not kid each other. We were all 20. we all made some really stupid decisions and stuff
Well,
in our
I
day.
guarantee you, I'm not
So
saying a word.
it's extremely unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the timing. It's unfortunate for him and the team.
Absolutely. Here's a great point Greg talks about. In high school, these guys Don Fisher was on the show yesterday, and he said this team does not have an alpha dog. And I kind of agree with him. But in high school, these guys almost were all alpha dogs, or at least on their teams somewhat. And it's like it kind of has gone away, and we're talking about that apprehension again. It's the same thing. I know Trace Jackson Davis, he's trying to be and needs to be an alpha dog, but he wasn't there in the first half. If he's going to be an All-American, you got to be there both halves.
Yeah, and it's kind of a two-part statement that you make there, but here's where I go with this, and I can go off on hour-long tangents on this, but recruiting includes more than just recruiting a guy who's 6'10" or a guy who's 6'7" or a guy who could rebound or shoot or is athletic or can dunk or whatever the skills are that are involved in a guy that you recruit. There's other aspects that go along with it, and one of those aspects is your ability to lead and your ability to. It can be as tangible as your ability to shoot or your athletic ability. It can be very tangible thing that you can see. And so, Jim, you and I don't get to be involved in who Indiana recruits. They don't ask us our opinion. They don't ask our Indiana fans who we want to see out there. So that lies solely on the coaching staff. And if they're not recruiting an alpha dog or someone who's going to come on that floor and be the alpha dog, that's on them. Like Don Fisher's right. There really isn't one. You can't. It's very difficult to become the alpha dog. Now you can be an alpha dog in waiting because there's 3 alpha dogs in front of you. That happens all the time, and that's when really good teams are formed. But you can't turn you can't turn Trace Jackson Davis into a great fundamental verbal leader if that's not in his nature, and it's not in his nature. I think we all can see that.
Tons and tons of comments tonight up here on Archie and the coaching. I didn't put any of them up because it's basically pointless. I'll tell you this. Archie has got 3 years left on his contract after this season. So if you've got about $11 million in your pocket and you want to buy him out, that's the option because his contract is guaranteed 100%. I don't know how that's going to work out or if he's going to be here or not be here, but for everybody his contract is guaranteed at 100%. There's no buyout. The buyout is just paying his salary.
Is the total, yeah.
Is the total. That's the buyout.
Double underline number at the bottom.
Yeah, you can thank Fred Glass for that one. But
here's the deal. Here's the deal with that, okay? Like, look, we all know starting over with a new coach and regime and whole program and all that starts you back at square one, okay? I don't think any of us want that. What I want this team to be good. I want Archie Miller to be the guy. I want this team to produce and create and be what I think we all envision them to be. But they're not doing it, and they're not it, and there's got to be a reason for that. I can't sit here and say exactly what that reason is, but I can say if it's not happening, at some point, you got to pull the plug on it. And I listened to your show earlier today, Jim, and I heard Chronic talk about, blue blood programs don't pull the plug after 4 years, and
Kentucky did. That's how they got John Calipari.
4 years is a long time. Like,
yes,
we're acting like, okay, because of Tom Izzo and those guys that are in their positions for 30 plus years, 4 years is a small sample size compared to that. But when you look at the second longest tenured guy in the whole Big Ten is Matt Painter. Time. I mean, 4 years is a pretty good sample size to be able to evaluate, where your program is going. And hey, look, I'm the first one that told you last year I can live with even not making the tournament as long as I see the light at the end of the tunnel where we are getting better and what point we're actually getting to. But Jim, I don't see that. I don't know what that point is we're getting to. I don't see what we're working towards.
Well, I don't think anybody sees it, and that's the problem.
That's the problem. That is a problem.
Whenever you see progress, it sucks, but if it's there, it is there, and that's why you normally get that 4 years. But when to me, it's just trended downward. And I mean, look at the Big Ten finishes: 6th, 8th, 10th. What this year? I don't know what this is going to be this year, but that's
10th
not
or worse. It's going to be 10th or worse.
So there's nothing trending upward there, nothing. And
you know what I don't do? The one thing I don't do is I don't go back and say, well, the Big Ten is. I mean, look how deep it is. Look how tough it is.
Tough for everybody.
You know what?
It's tough all over, baby.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my gosh, we need a coach night type coach or whatever it is. But 1989, Indiana outright wins the Big Ten title with, I will argue, the least talented team in the entire conference, maybe the second least talented team, and they beat outright in the Big Ten 2 teams that made the Final Four, Michigan and Illinois. Both made the Final Four. And
freshman-laden team. Wasn't that a freshman-laden team?
No, Indiana's wasn't. Indiana's
this is year before you.
This is a year before. Yeah, I had nothing to do with this team. This is not my team. I'm not self-bragging here.
No, I didn't think you were doing that.
This is part of the reason why I, along with Calbert Chaney and Pat Graham and Chris Lawson and Greg Graham and everybody else, chose to go to Indiana because we watched them win with, I'm going to straight up say, lesser talent than the other teams. And so I don't want to hear Michigan's really, look how deep the Big Ten is. Like we are okay with expecting to finish 6th. Right now, Jim, if we finish 6th, it would be a miracle finish. And that's a joke. Like that, I'm not okay. I'm never going to be okay with accepting that. If we're not competing for a Big Ten championship, then I'm not going to be satisfied with where we're at. And if that makes me a bad Indiana fan and a fair weather fan, then that's what I am. But all you people who claim to be Bob Knight supporters or that's why you love Indiana, he would never accept being mediocre or not competing at least for championships. And so I don't know why I should be expected to accept it either.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should. Let's see. I had one more here. Where did it go? Oh, I missed it. Well, got me up next, Iowa. What does Indiana have to do? Let's see. I hate to see. I usually like, they just might as well just go on. Iowa's up next for Indiana. They just played them. They beat them on the road. The 11 minutes drought by Iowa. That's probably not going to happen again, but what we saw tonight has got to be a confidence builder for Indiana. I mean, there's no moral victories. No, I understand that, but man, you beat a very good team tonight that has a formidable lineup inside and out, just like Iowa. Big man on the middle, plenty of perimeter shooters. They're going to have their hands full.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we said earlier, this is a get even game for Iowa. They're going to come in here trying to prove something. But you know what? Like I'll say this: I think Iowa is capable of beating Gonzaga. I think they're capable of beating Baylor. Okay.
Really?
The only reason I say they're capable of it is because they've got 5 guys on the floor that can shoot the ball at all times. And if they get hot, they literally can beat anyone. Now, to the flip side of that, they don't play defense. Like they barely play defense. And so if you can figure their little zone out, their soft zone that they play and give you opportunities to knock down shots, and you can knock down shots on your own, I will also say just about anyone can beat Iowa also. If you can outscore them, you can beat them. And if you catch them on a night when they have an 11-minute drought and you've only got to beat 29 minutes worth of Iowa's offense, you've got a decent chance of beating them. But I'll say it again. Iowa could win this game by 40 points. They could also lose this game. And that's a frustrating team to kind of root for also. If you're an Iowa fan, that's a frustrating situation. But, they're good offensive. They're one of the top 7 offensive teams in all the country.
Well, we'll certainly get to find out Sunday. That game's at Super Bowl Sunday, no less. So we got at least the game is early. Well, it's early on. It's early. It's a noon game, so we'll be done by 2. And hey, if you want to come out after the game at Yogi's, then you got the Super Bowl's going to be going on. You're already here, so great place to be. So just plan on spending Super Bowl Yogi's. Indiana taking on Iowa on Sunday, and I can't thank everybody at Yogi's enough. The Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney and Craig
Chris
Martin. I
Martin.
can't get Chris Martin.
Chris
Can't
Martin.
get the names out. Craig. I get Craig Smith, his cousin. Craig Martin and Kelly and Lindsay and everybody here. Appreciate everybody. Of course, Todd Leary, the star of the show, and most importantly, you guys. We'll be on the show again tomorrow. Indiana Sports Beat with you. Could be a wild one. May have a special guest. Dockich may be on tomorrow.
Dockich did a good job with the game tonight.
The funny thing is, though, I had a bunch of people texting me just bitching about whatever he was talking about. I didn't hear him, so I'm at the game.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to bitch about whatever he talks about for the most
we'll
part
find
anyway.
Out.
I mean, he's you know what? He calls it like it is, and I thought he was pretty fair in the game tonight.
Well,
although his mic went out at one point, so I know Indiana fans were loving the fact that his mic went out at one point.
It seems like everybody loves when his mic goes out, unfortunately. But I can't thank you guys enough, man. We really appreciate you all so much. And until tomorrow, make sure do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. For Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.